Greetings, Queen Maxine.
Thank you.
I wear these so that I could seem taller, but you are the brightest. Thank
Actual
you.
height is
Accurate. I will never tell. We are fortunate to be able to share a conversation, and especially for women and mentorship. You are known worldwide for your business, Build-A-Bear. But from your business to your bears, it's occurred to me that you work, operate, live according to your values in all that we've seen. So I wonder, how did Build-A-Bear become your model for mentorship?
Well, it's a really long story. We'd have to be here, for a long time in order to tell the whole story. But I am a person who believes in the power of a hug. I always have, and I feel it even more so now, because even today I met people I haven't seen in a long time, and the hug was so much stronger. And I think that I grew up in a retail business that was I was successful, but it was missing something. And I thought I could bring it back to the business, but I didn't really know exactly what we were gonna do. It was my best friend, Katie, who was 10 years old at the time, who we went out looking for Beanie Babies, if you all remember the Beanie Baby craze, and we couldn't find the one she wanted. She said, we could do this. We could make these. We went home to my house. She went downstairs, got out all the stuff to make it, but she didn't really mean that. I heard something bigger than what she was saying. And that comes from that relationship that you build with another person, even a 10-year-old. Yeah. It doesn't matter what your age is. If you're listening, you can feel that hug come through loud and proud.
So your work kind of is a big hug reflection of what you're doing in the world.
It is, and creating Build-A-Bear was just taking what I'd really been raised as, a young girl coming from Miami, Florida, and I grew up in a neighborhood that was like a village, actually. It was made up of doctors, nurses, teachers, electricians like my dad. My mom was a civil rights activist. There was beauticians. There was all kinds of people that lived in our neighborhood. And it didn't matter. There was always some other parent to help you if your parents weren't available. And I don't remember ever seeing a locked door. I would just knock and walk in. And I don't remember much about fences. We lived in a sort of open setting. And when I came to work in St. Louis for the May department stores, I felt that same kind of village. When I bought my first house in Lafayette Square, I felt that neighborhood village too. Mm-hmm. So it just has gone, it's never just about me. It's always about the others that are surround me and help me be successful, but also help add to my knowledge, my values, my friendships, make my world so much bigger.
Absolutely. You have a funny saying about a village.
I say it takes a village to raise a bear. And I kind of borrowed that from Hillary Clinton and the person that said it before her, but I really believe that's true. Any business takes a village. And when I work with young entrepreneurs, particularly women and women of color, we talk about that a lot. It can't just be about you. Yeah. And it is going to be bringing other people into that village, because success cannot just depend on one person. There's so many people that add value to your business along the way.
For sure. So a community hug is a suited analogy, and I get that for you. It's more than just setting up constructs and connections, or even just offering coaching. It's much more personal for you. Can you talk a little more about that?
It's really personal. When I meet someone, and I've had many people come up to me and say, will you be my mentor? And I say, it doesn't exactly work like that. Maybe, but we have to get to know each other. I have to know what it is that you're looking for. What do you need? And can I add value to your life in any way from my personal experiences? And we don't know that yet. And so it doesn't exactly, they're always sort of surprised, because I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, let's kind of go have lunch, have a cup of coffee, let's get to know each other. And there's so many ways to mentor people that isn't formal. It isn't usually a formal thing. It's really a give and take, a flow. that has to come from your relationship, at least for me, because I want to get something out of that too. I want to know this person and share them in my world.
Right. And you start by showing up. You mentioned mentoring women, young women of color, and I've seen you in many different spaces, interfacing with people from all backgrounds and ideas. Tell me a little bit more about how Build-A-Bear has been more than just your business card.
Well, you do have to show up, and that's who I am. It's probably my nosiness. You know, I have a journalism background, and I was always a news writer, and I love to write, and so I would always dig into the story a little bit. So that it comes from that. But I think that, you know, it's how do you get to know people? So back in 2014 and early 2015, after Michael Brown was shot, the Ferguson Commission meetings, I did not know very much about the situation except what I read in the newspaper and what I heard from my friends. And I wanted to know more. I wanted to be part of the solution, not the problem. And so I went to many of the Ferguson Commission meetings, but the one particularly that stands out in my mind is the Saturday youth group session that we had. And it was amazing. There were just so many incredible young people. And I think about how many of them are my friends today that I would not have known had I not shown up that day. But I was walking back to my seat after listening to a small group discussion, and my nosiness pops up again. I hear these three very attractive young girls talking about college and WashU, and I heard Emory, and I heard Vanderbilt, and I stopped and I introduced myself and I said, can I help you with any questions about WashU, because I'm on the board of trustees? And they asked me a few questions, but they kind of looked at me like, you know, what, really? Would she stop and talk to us about that? But I later did see that they looked at my business card, because I gave them my business card. They looked at it and they realized that I was from Build-A-Bear, because it did say Build-A-Bear on
Surprise.
there. And so that kind of gave me a little more credibility. But the WashU wasn't so much.
It's
but
like
I gave them all my card, and the next day I got a phone call from one of the young women, only one, Tyra Searcy. She called me, and she said, I would really like to talk to you about college. And she said, I really like WashU, but I've been accepted to Vanderbilt, I've been accepted to Emory, I've been accepted to Duke. I mean, she went on. And I'm thinking, girl, you've got it. You know, like, how can I help you? I would have never gotten into any of those schools. But we met for lunch, which became a habit for us. We would meet we always liked to go to Nordstrom's, and we would sit upstairs and have lunch, and they never rush you. And we would just sit and talk for hours. And really, I learned a lot about her background, and we talked about school, we talked about the challenges of living away from home, all those kinds of things that, you know, I thought about then too. That was one thing we also had in common. And then when she went away to school, she came back and we would talk. And the next summer, she came to work in our family foundation, which was great for us, but also for her too. I think she saw a lot of different situations that we deal with in our family foundation. And then she went off to Vanderbilt. You know, that's where she went. She decided to go.
Vanderbilt.
She did choose Vanderbilt.
Not a
And
bad
I was
choice.
really proud of her for that, because I think it was a great school. And it was far enough away that she was away, but it was close enough that she could come home if she needed it. And when she came home for Thanksgiving, we had this really interesting conversation, because she was a very ambitious young woman. Not only did she take 4 courses, the 4th course she took was Arabic, which is the hardest language to learn. She was a language person, and she was really scared. She was flunking out. What am I going to do? And I said, drop the course. When you get back, drop the course. Because you don't want to come, and her mom was thinking maybe she should come back to St. Louis, and I said, no, Vanderbilt, you're at the perfect place for you, you just need to drop that course. And the next Monday after Thanksgiving, she called me and told me, phew, it was just in time.
Did it make the difference?
So I can't even imagine taking Arabic in my freshman, ever, let alone my freshman year of college. But that was a really good learning lesson for her. She graduated from Vanderbilt, and one of the things we always had in common, she wanted to be in journalism. She was always talking about writing and speaking, and she's a beautiful, talented young woman. And so after the summer, after she worked for me, she went to work you know, for the New York Times. And one of the things we had talked about was when I was in high school, an editor of my high school newspaper, I always wanted to work at the New York Times. So I was really excited for her. And when she would call me and tell me, and especially during COVID, all these experiences that she was still having, I was living, you know, through her personal love of her job and my job. But recently she called me and she said that she was having some new thoughts about her career, that she loved her job at the New York Times, but there were so many other opportunities. We've all read about that, right? A million opportunities out there. So we sat down and we had a long conversation via Zoom, and she told me about, you know, what she was thinking about and the job offers that she had actually did not expect to have so quickly, but because she is such an incredible young woman, I think they came her way. And because she wasn't really seriously looking, she thought maybe it would take a year to find a good job. Yeah. So she told me, she said, I think I've figured it out. And I said, what? And she said, well, this big male-dominated sports brand, I think it's for me because the two people, my boss and my boss's boss, are both strong black women. Mm-hmm. And I said, that's it for me. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but if I were you, that's where I would go. Mm-hmm. And she went to the NBA.
Wow.
So she's now working at the NBA. That's a fantastic opportunity for her. And all the jobs she had paid incredibly well. It wasn't about money. It was really about finding that place where she thought she should be. And
because you knew her so well and you were able to weigh those options.
Yeah, she was really, we did a pros and cons. I said to her, call me back with the pros and cons.
Okay,
what you really, and we did. We talked about the pros and cons. There really was no con to any of the jobs, except one of them was in banking, and I wasn't sure that was for her. But it really wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. The other two jobs were really exciting to me too. When she told me about them.
It's got to fit.
So it was. But I think she'll always have those opportunities, and I'm really excited for her. I can't wait to hear when she comes home for the holidays what's transpired. Because I'm a basketball fan too, but usually it's college or high school basketball.
So you're kind of living vicariously through her in that.
Yes, that's one thing I could never have dreamt of being at 4'10" as a basketball player.
Well, that's funny because we've come to know that you can accomplish almost anything. It's also inspiring to know how much time and resources and attention you invest in your mentorship with the young women that you work with. What's more to the mentorship that takes you and makes you feel like that investment is worthwhile?
Well, first of all, I've been very fortunate. I had great mentors, my bosses, my teachers in high school and elementary school, and even all the way back to kindergarten. I've had great people that have inspired me. And if I can share any of their teachings that they taught me with anyone else, that's a big plus for me. For sure. But also, these young people have so much to add to our world. And that was one of the benefits of me attending the Ferguson events. I met so many people that I would not have otherwise known. Mm-hmm. And they've added so much incredibly to my life. So I have so many interests. I'm so curious about a lot of things. Yeah. I love being an entrepreneur. And there are so many entrepreneurs sitting in this room. But almost even in your job and working for a company, you're an entrepreneur. And how can I inspire people to really step out of their comfort zone and contribute what they have the full potential to contribute, not just doing your job, so to speak, but what else can you contribute? And right now, it's a buyer's market, so to speak. Yeah. You can figure it out. You can have any job you want almost, and you can contribute at the highest level. That's what people are expecting you to do. And the world's changing so quickly. We need all these young ideas. So for me, that's what it's about. It
sounds like the secret sauce is in it's give and take.
It is a give and take, and it is I walk away feeling so good after almost all of these meetings. Sometimes I'm a little worried because not everybody listens the same way, so you can't always tell what their responses are, whether they're going to go take that challenge and figure it out the right way, or they're going to make a mistake. But I also realize that you have to make mistakes in order to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. You have to make your own mistakes, because I'm not the CEO. They are. And they deserve the chance to be the CEO of their life and build their experiences so they can, in fact, share it with others. So sometimes there's going to be mistakes that maybe I could have prevented, and maybe I gave them some advice that would have, if they'd listened to me, it might have gone a different way. But just as many times it goes the totally opposite way, and it's as much a learning and maybe even a bigger opportunity than I could have expected.
For sure. Tell us what's next for you, Mama Bear.
Well, I'm certainly not done yet. There's so much more to do, and living in St. Louis certainly gives you a lot of opportunities. But I've actually want to take that village concept a little bit further. Okay. And about 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now, I was actually working with our KIPP school in the West End neighborhood, and I took a right turn instead of a left, and I went by the old St. Luke's Hospital, and I saw that it was for sale. And I thought, who's going to buy this? And I called a few people to see if they were interested, and they said, why don't you do it?
Well,
that's kind of how the way it works. And I said, why don't I do it? It's just exactly when Katie said, why don't we start Build-A-Bear? She didn't exactly mean that, and I don't think they meant that I would really do this. I think they were just thinking, it's not for me, why don't you take it on? So I did take it on, and I'm telling you, it's been a blessing of a lifetime. The 6 years that it's taken us to get to where we almost are today, which is to build a community where I think people St. Louis is kind of known by its divides, and Del Mar is that quintessential divide here in St. Louis. But I don't want it to be that way. It was actually the history that we've studied. It was an amazing street. It still is an amazing street. How can we bring it back, that community, where people can walk from north to south and south to north and go to lunch, go to the pharmacy, go to the bank, and just, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
Just Mr. Rogers would love this neighborhood that we're creating. And so it's from those neighbors that live in this neighborhood that I've learned that, because they've brought me into their lives. I'm invited to baby showers and weddings and to have coffee and lunch, and they trust me now because I've been there coming to all the meetings, sitting with them, listening to their dreams, even in the back of the room, just hearing what they want. And I figure I can help with that. Yeah. And so in that process, which is quite complicated, by the way, I've also marched out my next jobs. So when this is done, and we're starting to move people in right now as we speak, every day somebody new is moving into our building, into our offices, and by the end of the year we'll have most of our tenants in, and then by spring people will be in the apartments, and the bank and the restaurant and the pharmacy and all the other things that are going to be there will be open to the public, and I think we'll start to see a different kind of community, a different feeling about Del Mar. But it didn't come from me. It came from a long history of being in a neighborhood where people were proud to live, and they're going to be even prouder,
to work and contribute. Absolutely. Well, by the sound of the applause, we really were able to drive home your heart and determination about this community hug. I think a great acronym would be how we help each other grow, how we help us grow.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So if you have a call to action and encouragement, a TEDx inspiration about mentorship, especially for women, I'd love for you to share that as we close.
I think this is for everyone, really, because I heard this from a professor at the Wharton School, Adam Grant, and he calls it the 5-minute favor. And that's all it takes to give somebody some bit of knowledge, to introduce them to somebody that you know, to make an appointment to see. It might take 5 minutes, 5 hours, it might take a little bit longer, but the first connection is really about 5 minutes. And everybody has 5 minutes to share. And don't think that you don't have something that you could share with someone else that would make their opportunities better, their work easier, something about that. And so I say, just spare that 5 minutes, and it might turn into, a much longer relationship, something that will make your life 5 times better than you might have thought from that first 5 minutes. If you can live your imagination, your life will be a dream come true. And I think that my life has far exceeded my expectations because of all of you and all the other people that I've met in my lifetime. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
From someone who can build a dream and a hug around the world, Maxine Clark.
Thank you.